Skull Rock Podcast is brought to you by the generosity of the following companies. The Old Mill Press, publishing beautifully crafted books that illuminate our world. To learn more, visit theoldmillpress.com. And by listeners like you.
This is animator Rebecca Reese, and you are listening to the Skull Rock Podcast.
Aye, mateys, remember this as the day you sailed with the Skull Rock Podcast. Proceed at your own risk, and mark well me words, mateys. Dead men tell no tale.
Welcome back to yet another edition of Skull Rock Podcast, the show about all things Disney and pop culture. Every week we take you behind the scenes of some of your favorite Disney films, theme park attractions, performances, books, music, as well as what's streaming, what's in theaters, and what's happening in this multiverse of entertainment. I'm Aljon, your lifelong Disney, Marvel, Star Wars fan and pop culturist, and you can email me, Aljon, A-L-J-O-N, at skullrockpodcast.com.
And I'm Dave Bossert, artist, filmmaker, and author, and welcome to the Skull Rock Podcast. If you love Disney and pop culture, please subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. You can also like and follow us on Facebook, X, Blue Sky, Instagram, LinkedIn, and on our Skull Rock YouTube channel. Yeah. You can also email me at dave@skullrockpodcast. I am just blowing it at Dave at skullrockpodcast.com. Aljon, you and I are not here this week.
Nope.
We've pre-recorded this introduction because we're out and about in the world doing things.
Yes, we are. And if you happen to be out and about, please let us know. Follow me on Instagram for more. That's all I'll say. So follow me for Instagram.
I mean, look, you're going to be at Walt Disney World.
Yes.
And I'm going to be on Cape Cod.
There you go.
There you have it. So you might be able to spot us in either of those places.
Yes.
Probably on Cape Cod, you may spot me eating an ice cream cone someplace.
Oh, that's nice. I like that idea.
Yes. Yeah. So there you have it.
Exactly.
But while we're away, we are running a vault show.
Yeah.
And we decided to run episode 1 of our interview with animator Dave Spafford.
Yes.
And Dave, it was such a fantastic interview with him. And what I love about Dave is he's straightforward and he's honest and he tells you exactly what he thinks.
I love that.
Know?
Yeah.
And he doesn't care about politics. He doesn't care about, being politically correct or anything like that. And I think this is really a terrific interview. We want to give you this taste of Dave Spafford, part 1. And if you're interested, you can go into our vault and listen to the other parts of the interview because he's absolutely terrific.
He's the best, man. So sit back and relax and enjoy the Spaff right here on Skull Rock Podcast.
Let's do it.
Skull Rock Podcast.
That's a blast from the past.
Great big blast from the past.
I'm a blast from the past.
Oh, and now there's a blast from the past.
An interview from the vault.
All right, Aljon. Once again, we've got another fantastic guest back on the Skull Rock Podcast. We've got animator, animation supervisor, general all-around badass animation dude, Dave Spafford. Dave, welcome to the Skull Rock Podcast.
All right, Dave. Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Dave, I always have admired you because you've always done your own thing and you're such an incredible talent that I've, even though we've worked on projects together early on, I've always sort of been keeping tabs on what you were up to over the years in the industry because you're always sort of surprising people with some of the things that you worked on. And one of the things I wanted to ask you is, how did you get started in animation? Where did it start?
Well, I grew up about a mile from Disneyland, and every night the fireworks went off. And you looked up in the sky and went, oh, yeah, Walt Disney, the coolest guy in the world. It's like, oh, man, how do I get closer to that? And, and also what was behind, in front of all the fireworks was the Mickey Mouse Club, which was mind-blowing to me. And I understood even as a 6-year-old or a 5-year-old, or even 4, that there was something different about Walt Disney and how his entertainment was put out to everybody. You know, for instance, everything about me growing up came on how to think about other people, all came from Jimmy Dodd. You know, Jimmy Dodd came on at the end of the show and he goes, "Hey, Musketeers, everybody come a little closer to the TV." He goes, I want you to try something. And he goes, "Tonight, after you have dinner, without anybody telling you to, go in and wash the dishes and see what happens. You know, you don't have to expect anything, but just see what happens." And I did it. And my mom and I became closer than we ever were. It was like, "Hey, do you want to stay up tonight and watch the Johnny Carson show?" That was like, oh man, I could stay up. And it was because I washed the dishes. And I went, man.
And what was
I felt good.
What was your mother's reaction when you just walked over and started doing the dishes?
Are we allowed to cuss?
Yeah, go for it. We'll bleep you if it's too hardcore.
No, my mom went, "Who the hell is this? Who are you? And what happened to my son?" You know, she was definitely happy. But I just saw it. And to get back to the real thing, I felt like that really felt good. I want to do more of that. And so the show taught you things like that about being nice to the, hey, go help that kid if someone's trying to beat him up and he's too little to defend himself. It became that was my thing. You know, it was everything. I had learned everything from the Mickey Mouse Club, and that was on the side of seeing all the artists and the animation and Disneyland and, all those, the Mickey Mouse Club and the Wonderful World of Color had everything. They shaped me 100%. So when the fireworks went off, everything that I was getting from those shows was, oh yeah. And the guy that they put those shows on is building this down the street. And I have to be part of it. And then I saw on the Mickey Mouse Club, Walt gave the Mouseketeers a tour through the studio. They were like, how are cartoons made? It was something like that. I think it was the Mickey Mouse Club, or it was a special on the Wonderful World of Color. And they were looking at drawings, animation, and they flipped some drawings of like Alice in Wonderland, which we had just seen at the drive-in theater. And all of a sudden it made sense to me. I understood what it was. And this was back when they never really showed you behind the scenes of how things were done. It was just, those are two different worlds.
And there was hardly any books available,
books. There was the 1958 book, The Art of Animation.
Right, The Art of Disney Animation. And there was also the Walter Foster book.
Right. The Walter Foster books were probably did the most for all of us because they cost $1.
And we all had them.
Yeah, we all had like 8 of them. I had everybody in the world giving them to me for Christmas or my birthday, and I still have every one of them, and they are the best. I mean, what's his name? The animator. He did the Mickey and the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Yeah.
He did the best animation Walter Foster book. Preston Blair,
yes.
Preston Blair would come around to the colleges and sell those out of the back out of his station wagon. And I mean, and that was another thing that really helped me get into animation. Was a teacher of mine had said, "Hey, I'm taking this night class at the college, and there's this artist there. He's teaching freehand sketching. His name's Bruce McIntyre. I think he was a Disney animator." Boom, done. On my bike that night to the college to meet this guy. And it had everything to do with me getting in the studio, meeting this guy. He taught me how to draw on newsprint with a fine tip black marker.
Mm-hmm.
He would say, "Bring me a stack of drawings every week, but I don't want to see any drawings that have a bleed on it." Now, newsprint and a fine tip black marker, the felt tip marker, you can't even draw fast. All you can do is attack the paper with the pencil at a speed to not make it leave a bleed.
Which is hard to do on newsprint.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I would do these drawings, and he was like going, it doesn't matter about all the muscles and everything. You're just drawing the soul of the drawing, what's underneath everything. And then animation, that's basically where you start. And because Bruce McIntyre was John Lounsbury's assistant.
Mm-hmm.
And so, those are the drawings that I brought to the studio and showed them to Eric Larson. And he's like going, son of a bitch, where'd you learn to draw like this? And it wasn't like son of a bitch, these drawings are great. Far from it. It was the idea that a kid was coming in with these fast stroke, crazy drawings.
What we would call gesture drawings.
Yeah,
very quick
exactly.
gesture sketches.
We're doing 20-second model poses.
Yeah.
And so this guy, he taught me everything. And so he would go, all right, every time you come here, once a week, you bring me an inch high stack of drawings. And he even took me down to the local, the Register newspaper in Orange County.
Yeah.
And introduced me to this guy in the very end of the building where they printed off the newspaper. And he goes, knock on this door, ask Carl. Carl will give you a big roll of paper, like this thick, because they can't let the machines run off. They have to slow it down, and then they take that off, and then they recycle that paper. He goes, just ask him for one. He'll give you one.
Yeah.
And it'll be all the paper you need for the rest of your life. And then he goes, cut them up to a certain size to fit on a clipboard. And he goes, bring me an inch high stack every week. And then he'd look at him and he'd go, no, and he'd be like going through all of them. And I'm just going, they all suck. And you go, all right, this one right here, keep that one. Okay. Put that one aside. That one's going to be part of your portfolio. And there might be two of them.
But that was your first experience with that. I mean, nowadays, you sit and do, 50 or 100 sketches, and you might pull out one or two or three good ones that you feel like, I think I'm capturing it here. Yeah. When you're working up an idea, right?
Right.
And a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people think that you just sit down and you draw this perfect drawing right away. And how many people have you seen come into the industry where they were drawing really tightly instead of very loose to start with, right? Exactly.
Yeah. And so, these were the stack of drawings that I took, and Eric Larson just kind of looking at him. And I remember him saying, son of a bitch. And I'm like going, is that good or bad? Because I had never heard anybody say that before.
Yeah.
Except for in the movies. And then a guy went and shot the other guy, like, son of a bitch. Oh. Eric Larson was like this guy. And so I didn't know what was happening. And so he goes, well, what you're doing here is this is where we want you to start. This is where we want everybody to start. We'll teach you how to draw, because you can't learn how to draw the Disney stuff outside of here. All you're going to do is learn bad habits.
Yeah.
And which is what Ollie used to say to me every time I would, or John Lounsbury, when I'd call them up and talk to them on the phone, you know, or go to the studio to see if I could get a tour. Yeah, I'd call them up from the phone booth outside personnel right next to the entrance. And so the idea that they were like going, oh, you're in a good spot to learn.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, this is working, you know.
It must have been really encouraging.
Oh man, it was crazy. And they said,
and by the way, what year is this? What's the time frame? Because were you in high school?
Yes.
Okay.
It wasn't the first time I went to the studio. I went to the studio a couple times, one to see Lounsbury, one time to see Ollie Johnston. You know, I would call them up and they'd say, well, next time you're up here, you know, give us a call. And I said, well, I'm at the front gate. And they're, and so they would have their assistant walk out, like Dave Suding used to come out and bring me into the studio. I'd meet Ollie and he'd, you know, tell me what I needed to know to, you know, and he would just go, don't draw Disney characters. Don't do this. Don't do that. Just draw, and just keep drawing. You know, we'll teach you animation. You know, you go try to learn animation from anybody else and you're going to learn a bunch of bad habits. And at the time, this was really heavy on their mind, because this is right when Cal Arts was first starting. I mean, the idea of there maybe being an animation class.
Yeah.
And which is run and they had just started. I knew nothing about Cal Arts or anything, but they did. And they weren't too sure about someone else teaching Disney animation to people who are going to try to work there. They're like going, you know, and they knew that, you know, they would have to be like someone who was willing to work there. So it's got to be someone who's out of work. So how good can they be? You know,
right.
They had all kinds of reservations about what that school was supposed to be, or how could it be? You know, who's going to teach these people? Is it a good idea? Like Milt hated the idea. You know, later on I learned, you know, the idea of Cal Arts was like, he was just going, you know.
Yeah.
Go out there and learn how to draw yourself.
But I think Milt hated a lot of stuff.
Oh, Milt hated everything. And I'm right there with him. You know, Milt made me feel good because he was as angry as I was about, you know, how to do certain things, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Yeah.
So let me ask you this: you're doing this in high school. You graduate high school. Do you go to art school, or do you just go right into the business?
Well, when I was 15 or 16, I worked in the parades at Disneyland. I got in Fantasy on Parade as a column. You know,
wow,
that the ostriches and the alligators danced around as you're walking, you know, and here I'm inside carrying this column, you know, and so the idea that I was around Disney things was good, because I was looking at in the bookstore, there was like all kinds of artwork everywhere in the park, you know, it was always, and it was a lot of, you know, Mark Davis doing things, and you know, it was a great place to be, but I knew nothing about art school. In fact, Eric Larson asked me, what art school did you go to? And I went, I just told him the name of my high school, and he goes, La Quinta. I've never heard of that. And then he realized what I was doing, and he goes, "Is that your high school?" And I went, "Yeah." I had art class. I did not know that art school existed, that you could pay to be taught art. That was in school.
Yeah.
And also I knew that it existed in college, but I was so focused on, I closed the whole world out. I was perfect tunnel vision.
Yeah.
All I saw was just getting in there. I didn't want to think about going to a college or a school or anything. I was like going, I want to get in there now. Those guys are old. They're not going to be around long. I'll be a janitor and be around those guys. That was my plan. If it didn't happen fast enough.
Did you have art classes in high school? Did you have a reasonably good art classes or not?
Yeah, but that all went sour really fast. There was a Channel 50 was having a contest to animate the logo of our channel.
Right.
And so I animated this airplane flying around pulling a banner that said, KCOE Channel 50. And I won. But I had pissed off the art teacher who was in charge of having us do this animated thing. We each did our thing, but he was the teacher, and I wasn't going to let him tell me anything about animation, because as far as I knew, I was talking to Ollie Johnston and all these guys, and
you were talking to the masters, and you just felt this guy didn't have a clue.
Not a clue. And so I was going to take what little I knew and show him. And I did. And it kind of rubbed him the wrong way. And so I kind of ended up being I got put into the theater department as punishment. He was kicking me out of he goes, "Oh, I'm going to, you just go over there. You're going to paint the sets."
Wow.
They need sets painted.
Wow. That's harsh.
Yeah. And so I got kicked out of the art class.
And in reality, he should have done the opposite. He should have embraced you and really, helped develop your talents.
No, I went against the authority and did it my way, succeeded, but then created a riff that it ended later in years. I ended up inviting that teacher in order to get that out of my life, that feeling, like it bugged me.
Yeah.
And so I invited him. I invited that teacher to the opening at MGM Studios for when we released The Secret, and then we had a party in there.
Wow.
We had a big screening, and I invited him and my theater teacher.
And did they come?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And we became great friends. Great friends.
Did you ever talk about that? What had happened?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it was, and I was a little prick, you couldn't help. You place yourself in between me and Walt Disney. My goal.
Yeah.
I would eat you alive. Eat the skinny little, 90-pound kid. I would just look out. You wouldn't want to mess with me. And it just worked out. The teacher, the theater teacher was the teacher who ended up telling me about Bruce McIntyre. So the whole thing just, and the theater teacher, he goes, all right, well, here, I want you to paint this set. It was just plain walls, the scrim or whatever, the set pieces. He goes, just paint it. I'm taking everybody we just finished a play last night, and I'm taking everybody who was in that out to lunch. So we're probably going to be gone for 2 hours. Just paint this set. It's a really dirty family, and the house is a mess. And so I painted these walls, and I put my handprints on it. I took a plate, a plastic plate, and I put school string. I mixed some paint, made it look like spaghetti, and made some tissue paper meatballs, and I just smashed it on the wall and then nailed it, thinking I was going, fuck you guys, bunch of weirdos, because and they came back and he just came running up and he's grabbing me. He's going, oh my God, this is fantastic. This is fantastic. Hey, from now on, you're the set guy. You build the sets. You're the set guy. And it was it changed everything for me. It was actually the first time someone actually went, oh no, you're the guy. I'm going to put this in your hands.
It made you feel good.
It made me feel really good. And I'm still excellent friends with that teacher today.
That's awesome.
I talk to him all the time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you graduate high school, and what happens with Disney? How do you get into Disney?
Well, I'm working at Disneyland. I ended up after the parades getting a permanent job at Disneyland as a character in the park.
What character?
I favored King Louis because in America on Parade, I was given Brer Fox, which was a really comfortable costume. Mm-hmm. And it was, again, they were showing us all the costumes for the first time. And here they bring in, and there was King Louis. And I was like, oh, wow, look at that. It's like a whole suit, the shell, fiberglass shell with hair on it. And it fit over the top of you. And you had these big, long arms and monkey feet and hands. It was a beautiful costume. And I just went, wow. And I watched, we were all putting on our costumes to see if they would fit. And the guy in the King Louis costume all of a sudden fell over and started freaking out, screaming, and then threw up in the costume.
Oh.
And they had to force him out of it. It took all these people to get him out of this costume. He was having a freak out in this thing.
Like a total panic attack.
Total panic. And it was very claustrophobic. You had these two holes that, the shell that fit down over your holes. And it was like the mouth came out here. And so you could breathe through there. But it was a fiberglass shell all the way to your waist.
Must have been heavy.
It was heavy. And they were like going, wow, that guy just lost his job. And I was standing right next to the guy who was in charge of the whole thing. And he was talking to someone else and he's going, all right, well, we'll get someone else to do it. And, just tell them, hey, sorry, it just didn't work out. And they were going to let him go. And I went, give him my costume. I'll do that costume. You do have another, right? Because he just threw up in it. Go, no, they destroy that costume if something like that happens. So they take the whole thing gets burned.
Wow.
And he goes, you really want to do it? And I went, hell yeah, I'll do that costume. And so me and the guy who was the guy who's played Baloo ended up working out how to act like the cartoon. And we really put on a show way beyond just being on a float waving to people. We would end up hopping off the float and running around the float, doing all this crazy stuff. And they loved it. They just went, man, you guys are really good. You were performers. Yeah. And so this guy, Tom Tancredi, who was in charge of the whole thing, he comes to me and John, and he goes, the guy who played Baloo, and he goes, hey, would you guys like to be characters in the park? And we went, that's like winning the Academy Award. I mean, that was more like a full-time job, kind of thing. It was, closer to it. And Disney worked in this, you worked your way up into being full-time. But because I was doing King Louis and was willing to do that costume, everybody hated it. They never put it out in the park. It wasn't used as much. Yeah. Because it was too hot, heavy. People didn't like it. And I just said, I'll do that every day. And so I worked a lot. And then I did one of the Three Pigs and loved that. That was even more fun because they were funny. Yeah. And ended up doing that. And I was sitting in a pig costume in half a pig costume when the phone booth ran next to me, and it was Don Duckwall calling me to say that that they were going to bring me in.
So they had a slot for you in the training program.
No. They were starting rescuers, and I remember Randy Cartwright, who was also in the character department at Disneyland. He had just gone over, and so he was working. They were working on the rescuers.
Yeah,
and everybody sort of, they had what they needed. I told them, because McIntyre told me, just tell them you want to be an in-betweener. You want to start as an in-betweener. And I said, yeah, I want to start as an in-betweener. And they're going, okay. And they said, well, we don't have a spot for you now. We've hired you. And you had mentioned earlier about getting into, McIntyre told you to get into the mailroom.
Yeah.
So at least you're around it.
Yeah.
And also too, they wanted me to go to Art Center, and they were going, and they said, have you ever heard of Art Center? I said, no. And they're going, well, it's kind of expensive. They go, do you have a job? And I went, well, I work at Disneyland. And they're going, oh yeah, you're not going to be able to afford that. And I said, well, how about if I go into traffic, the mailroom, then I would be able to. And they went, oh, you know about traffic, huh? And I said, yeah, Bruce McIntyre told me. And they went, all right, well, look, we're gonna look into that and see if we can get you in there. And so Don Duckwall called me. It was in December of '75. Randy Cartwright was already up at the studio, and it was like, oh man, this is possible.
Yeah,
I know someone who just got hired there. And so he said, all right, well, we're going to figure it out, and I'll be calling you back. But that's the plan. We're going to put you in traffic. And so I was waiting, and then Don Duckwall's secretary, or it might have been Joanne, Ed Hansen's secretary.
Yeah, that's probably about right.
Yeah, who called me up and said, hey, we're everything's on hold. John Lounsbury died.
Yeah, he was one of the first one of the 9 old men to pass away, and he did so suddenly.
Yeah, he was the youngest too.
Yeah,
but I think he was the only one. Well, Les Clark smoked. But
I think all of them smoked at one time or another. It seemed like. I don't
know if Milt ever did.
Some of these guys had pipes.
I think Lincoln Ollie did.
Yeah, I think one of those guys had a pipe. They smoked a pipe once in a while, but it was that was the period, the time period. There was an awful lot of people who smoked. If you didn't smoke, you were getting a lot of secondhand smoke.
I could see Milt going, this fucking thing gets in the way. Of his productivity. It's like. But so Lounsbury died, and then I came into traffic probably like.
So like 1976, 77?
76. I came in the middle of summer or something like that. It was after Lounsbury died, and it was like, I felt like, man, this is taking forever. It's like, have they forgotten about me? And so I would call back, and they would get back on it. And then finally they called me and said, all right, well, we're going to put you in traffic. And they did. And that was the best thing ever, because I got to know every single person that worked.
And you knew where they were. You knew where their office was.
I knew more about that studio than anybody working on it. They would call traffic to go, hey, ask Dave, where are the carousel horses from Mary Poppins? And I go, oh, they're under a bunch of wood in the corner of the Zorro set. And that's the way it was.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was absolutely. I mean, of course, that was back when nobody collected anything.
Right.
There was no props, everything just got tossed or set aside. If they were really cool, they put them under the you put them under the wood over there by the Zorro set. And if we need them, they're there.
Yeah,
that's the way it was. They had a warehouse on the corner that had stuff. I mean, I have one of the only Mary Poppins chimney sweep brooms.
Wow, that's a great prop.
They took all of them out of the warehouse. They threw them in a pile, and I was like going, "Wow, what are you guys doing?" They're going out. They're clearing out the warehouse. I'm going, "Man, you're going, yeah, those are Mary Poppins," and I'm just going, "Man." I said, "Hey, can I put one in my room in the animation department?" And the guy goes, "Yeah, knock yourself out." So I took one, and I remember I unscrewed it and walked it back to my room and put it back together, and I hung it in my room forever, and they threw away every single one of them.
Wow. Yeah,
so
there's
cells in these drums of water.
Yes, I remember when, and they would also toss out the cells on rainy days. The few rainy days you'd have in January, right. February, they throw the cells into the dumpster on a rainy day, and half the animation department was doing dumpster diving.
That's right. Yeah, I remember. And no one cared. I mean. I remember
because at that time it didn't really have perceived value like it does today.
No, there was nowhere you could sell it.
Yeah.
What were you going to do? Go put an ad in the recycler? That's all that there was.
Exactly.
There was no format to selling anything.
Yeah.
You went to the swap meet. We had swap meets. I've got this idea. I'm going to sell these things. Where do you do it? The only place is the swap meet.
Right. That was it.
A whole different world. Which was great,
How long did you stay in traffic before they pulled you into animation?
I came in on the. Let me see. I forget how they were only on the Rescuers for like a year and a half. I came in on the last 6 months of the Rescuers, and I had been working on Banjo. Don Bluth's film that he was making in his garage.
Right. And by the way, don't gloss over that. I want to hear how, you're in traffic. They pull you into Rescuers to do as an in-betweener, but how did you get hooked up with Don Bluth?
Randy Cartwright. Randy Cartwright, who was one of, was very cool to me. He was like going, well, if you want to get in here sooner, I'd go work on get on Don's film.
The short film that he was doing, Banjo the Woodpile Cat. He was doing it in his garage in Burbank, right?
No, in Culver City.
Culver City, okay.
And so I went up to they were all eating lunch at a table outside on the little picnic area at the outside the commissary, and I walked up to Don and I said, "Hey, I heard you're working on a film. I'd like to learn how to become an in-betweener." And he goes, "Is that all you want to do? Is just be an in-betweener?" And I said, "No, I want to be an animator, but Bruce McIntyre told me to start at an in-betweener."
Yeah, start at the bottom and work your way up.
Yeah. And I knew what in-betweens were, but the idea of it being called an in-betweener, I didn't know what all of that meant. It was
right.
I mean, I took to heart when Ollie Johnston told me when I was like 12 or 13, don't try to figure out animation. Don't do animation drawings. Don't do any of this stuff. We will teach you. You just learn to draw.
Yeah.
We just want people who draw. We don't want people who came from animation. You're just going to have a bunch of bad habits. Don't do it. And and that was like a relief to me because, when you're in high school and you're looking at a drawing at Mill Call, like right there, and you're going, oh my God, do I suck? Oh, these guys are superhuman beings. Yeah. Because they've been doing it for 70 years. Yeah. They are amazing. you what do you know? You've had no training whatsoever. All you know is that you like it. And so that really the idea of working on that film and learning to be an in-betweener and then a breakdown person and then an assistant. And I whipped through it. The amount of time I put in was absolutely insane. I mean, they always had to like to say, hey man, slow down, I was so into it. And I became John Pomeroy's assistant on banjo. And I painted cells, I did voices, I shot on the camera. I learned everything before I even started on Rescuers.
Yeah.
So when it got down to it, and they were like going, all right, we're going to bring you in. You're going to work with John, or eventually, but John had gone on vacation, and so they put me with Bob McRae.
I had Bob McRae as an animation teacher at Cal Arts, and that's why I started laughing, and you're laughing because we're full of Bob McRae stories.
Oh, I mean, his pants hanging halfway off his butt. He was the original gangster when it came to wearing pants like that.
There you go.
And he comes in to my room, and he goes, all right, here, it's Mickey Mouse. He's doing a thing with a paintbrush. Just have him go like this, and paint drips down. And when the paint drips down, that's going to change to the next live action scene. Yeah,
it's the magic paintbrush.
Right. Which I had no idea what the hell he was talking about.
Right.
And one, it's like, wait a minute, what does this have to do with in-betweens? I'm not an animator. And he's going, you can animate this. And I'm going, what? And so I did this thing with the paint, and Mickey doing a thing with the brush stroke and the paint coming down. And it was awful. I mean, he just went, yeah, okay, that's great. And I'm just going.
He's puffing on his pipe, and he would say to us, at Cal Arts, he'd puff on his pipe when you showed him something. And he goes, well, it works. It works. He was just sort of like, it works.
Yeah. Is it good or is it bad? No, because I remember Ed Hansen introduced me to him. He goes, this is Bob McRae. And I went, wow, this is an animator. This is what an animator looks like. And then it took me about 5 minutes to go, no, this ain't one of those guys. And I just remember thinking, oh, God, this is a weird start. And then.
No, but I mean, we should say, we should let our listeners know, Bob McRae really was a great assistant who also did animation, and they had him do a lot of the TV animation.
Right. Exactly. And he was at the end of his career. He was burned out. I mean, he was really very caustic. He looked frightening. Just that face, right, him wanting to retire, and you're just a pain in the ass idiot who doesn't know anything. It was a very odd, strange position for me, because here I was willing to do anything for anybody. I'm at the Disney studio. And
it was kind of like somebody throwing a little water on your fire.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
But then they, because I was working with John Pomeroy so much, John was probably the closest person to drawing like Milt out of anybody at that studio, including Frank and Ollie. That they just did not have the knack of drawing like Milt.
Mm-hmm.
John was very interested in that and was very good at it. And Milt loved John, hated everybody else in the animation department, but loved John Pomeroy.
Why do you think that was the case?
Because he had respect for this young man who could draw like a mother.
Yeah.
I mean, John could flat out draw like nobody's business. And, and John would hold the pencil back at the end of the pencil, almost like a paintbrush, and just kind of go, ooh, and draw this little light line,
Yeah.
And it was just this beautiful thing. And he drew it out. And it was like, God, it's like all there. John would have been one of the greatest if he would have stayed. If he would have stayed with.
Yeah, but something, I would tell you that he is one of the great ones of the contemporary animators, and he did come back to Disney.
Yeah,
but he did leave for a while, and then he did come back.
But John had to carry every person that was new, had to help them, show them, teach them,
And he seemed to he had a knack for that, though. He really did, don't you think?
But working on The Secret of NIMH, he had to basically help everybody's animation because we all sucked at the beginning,
Yeah.
We were all fairly new. And so to me, John was always spread too thin to the point where it's like, in the end, I felt like he became like a master at shortcuts. In order to get so much work done.
Yeah, because he was turning out a lot of footage while he was really training a lot of people.
Well, he trained every single one of us.
Yeah. And
on The Secret of NIMH, every damn scene is John. He's giving it to us to do, but you would take your work to him, and he would give you that one drawing that saved your ass.
Yeah.
Or 100 drawings, or you just lay a drawing down and just go and kind of guide you through stronger positions and everything. John was great. But I think animation.
John is great.
Yeah.
He is great. We've had John on the show, and now he has the John Pomeroy Academy in Tennessee. So he's teaching, he's imparting all of those decades of experience that he has onto this next generation.
Yeah, I owe everything to John. Back to when I was working with Bob McCrae, John was on vacation, and they were basically really trying to get a chunk of banjo done. I was working at night and on the weekends on it, but they went and he took a vacation, and I ended up working with Stan Green, who was finishing up, and they just had a party for Milt.
Retirement.
Yeah. When he retired, but he was still coming in, and so I was working with Stan Green, and we did a bunch of Medusa stuff. Stan ended up, Milt had roughed out a bunch of stuff for Stan to do, and Cliff Norberg. Cliff Norberg ended up doing some of her whipping the alligators as she's on that swamp boat thing, and I worked on all that stuff, and so I was working with Cliff and Stan Green, because I worked with John, and John drew like Milt, and so they thought, oh yeah, okay, he can work for Stan. He understands, that style, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Did Milt like you?
Milt didn't. When I first started, when I first started in traffic, I one time said, give me that letters for Milt. I'll go give it to him. And they're going, oh yeah. Go give that to Milt. Just go give it to him right now. And so everybody in traffic was like going, oh shit. And so I knocked on the door, no answer. because he's in the zone. And I pushed the door open and I went, "Oh, I got a letter for you." And all I saw was this. God damn it. And when he turned around, all that was there was a floating letter, and I was on the back berm, smoking a pipe for 12 hours. It was like, man, he scared the crap out of me.
Wow.
And I'm, when I'd get there in the morning too, I'd have coffee with, what was his, he was president of the union for a while, Bud Hester.
Okay, Bud Hester, yeah.
I would have coffee with Bud Hester. Those guys get there early.
But Bud Hester was a background painter, wasn't he? Or no?
He was an assistant.
Okay, he was an assistant. I'm trying. Yeah. Who was I thinking of? I was thinking of someone else who was a background painter.
Well, the background painters that were there were Bill Lane, Al Dempster,
Ralph Hewlett.
Yes.
Hewlett. Yeah, that's who I was thinking of, was Ralph Hewlett, because his son, Steve Hewlett, was the business manager for the union. So when you said union,
that's right.
Yeah.
So I had worked on some of that stuff. And so I knew Milt. That was my first meeting of Milt. The second time was I was sitting in my room and I was drawing these caricatures of Milt peeing on Frank and all these animations. With a bubble above the head going, hey, you guys, your animation's looking better every minute. There's this big old, horrible. And I made him like a crazy hunchback because Milt had a hunch, but I was doing these super
exaggerated hunches.
Man,
yeah.
Really. And my assistant said, "Oh man, can I make a copy of those drawings? Those are really cool." And I went, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah, I want." So we had just gotten a Xerox machine, and he goes, and in D wing there was the Xerox machine. So he goes there and makes these Xeroxes, and then for Lee he forgot the originals underneath the platen. So he comes back and everything, and Dave Block went in there to Xerox something, saw the drawings, went in, and Milt had gone back to his room, which was now the bullpen for the first group of Cal Arts guys.
Right.
And so Milt was in there talking with him. Dave Block goes in and he hands him these. He goes, "Oh, hey, I found these on the." And Milt's looking at these things and he goes, "Who did this?" And they were all glad because at the time those guys didn't really care too much for me because I wasn't from Cal Arts.
Right.
I was an outsider. And Milt gets up and he goes, Where is this guy? And they're all going, "Oh yeah, this is all this."
So they drew a map to your office, huh?
Yeah. And so I hear all of a sudden my assistant comes in. He goes, "Oh man, I left those drawings on the thing, and Milt has them now, and he's coming down here." And I'm going, "What? You what?" And Milt comes in. He puts his hands up on the door, and he's like going, "Do you do these?" And I'm going, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, I haven't felt like this in a long time."
So he liked them.
Yeah, he thought they were great.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm sitting there and I'm like going, "Holy shit!" I was about ready to have a heart attack. I thought I was having a heart attack.
Oh man,
19 years old or 19, and I'm like going, "I'm gonna have a heart attack right here." I mean, I really thought I was gonna have one, and that was cool, And so that kind of
so it curried favor with him. You curried favor because he actually liked your sense of humor.
Yeah. But he by that point he was already gone, but he was just coming back. He was always coming in, seeing what Stan Green was doing. So he wasn't still working on the film. He was done. He was gone.
He was done, but he was just kind of easing himself out by popping by. Yeah.
But man, I thought I was fired. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. But,
That was such a great story. Dave, we're bumping up against time. What I want to do is I want to have you back next week. And we could pick up and start talking a little bit about Pete's Dragon, the small one, and some of those films. I have a feeling we're going to turn this into like 3 parts, your interview, because you got so many great stories. Is that good? Is that all right?
Good to me.
All right. So thanks for being on the Skull Rock podcast this week, Dave, and we're going to see you next week.
You betcha.
Hi there, this is Dave Zaboski. I'm a former Disney animator and the CCO of Litro.com. You're listening to the Skull Rock podcast coming directly from the islands of Peter Pan's Never Never Land.
Hey gang, it's time once again for yet another Disney travel deal, and this for Disney Visa card members, where you can save up to 30% on select days of 5 or more nights this winter. You can escape to a tropical oasis with this offer at Aulani. You can stay in an ocean or partial ocean view room or villa, saving 30% on stays of 5 or more consecutive nights. You can save 25% on stays of 4 consecutive nights, or 20 to 25% of 4 or 5 consecutive night stays on all other view types. It's for most nights January 4th of 2026 to April 9th of 2026 as well. And so this is an awesome deal. And once again, want to go ahead and take advantage of this by contacting my wife, Kristen. She will hook you up. She's got years and years of experience booking Disney trips. And not only that, but also cruise line, any cruise line, Adventures by Disney, Universal Resort. She can do that for you. Save you time and money. Email her for your free quote today. That's Kristen, Kristen, at magicaljourneysvacations.com.
Skull Rock Podcast, where you hear the stories behind the adventures.
Let's get out of here!
Come on, Scotty, let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here, Lieutenant.
Oh, Dave, here we go, man. That was awesome. I love that.
Just fantastic. I love, I periodically have lunch with Dave Spafford. I love talking to him. He's very insightful about the business and things that are going on. I would encourage our listeners, if you hadn't listened to his entire interview, there's 5 more parts. So you just heard part 1. There's 5 more parts. Go into our vault and check that out.
Absolutely, man. It's so much fun to have Spafford on, and I look forward to a future where we do more stuff with Dave Spafford to talk about the industry in general. He's so insightful and such a great personality. So, gang, thank you so much for listening to our Vault show. And once again, as Dave said, if you want more, check it out. It's all there at skullrockpodcast.com. We encourage you to check that out. Also, be sure to like us, share us, subscribe to us on YouTube. That is a great place for everyone to check out the Vault shows as well. And you can even interact with us and leave us those comments. We do encourage that. Follow us on X, Facebook, Blue Sky, Instagram, LinkedIn. Dave and I are both on there. You can send us those notes as well. And we would appreciate you writing those emails, Dave at skullrockpodcast.com or Aljon, Aljon, at skullrockpodcast.com. Quick shout out to our friends at Sorcerer Radio at srsounds.com. All Disney music all day long. You can also follow me on Instagram at AljonGo, and our other podcast with myself and my wife, Kristen Hetzel and Kat Arcori. It's called Dining at Disney. We drop a show every single week talking about the theme parks and Disney food. Once again, Dining at Disney, on everywhere you find podcasts. Dave?
Yeah, and as always, you can check me out on the Tunes Behind the Tunes on Sirius XM, Disney Hits, Channel 133. Any of my books are available at theoldmillpress.com. You can also go to my website, davidbossert.com, for all kinds of free content and free stuff that you can mail away for. So with that, Aljon, I'm going to say, go out and have a fantastic week. We'll be back here next week with a brand new interview with producer, artist, animator Tad Stones. And he's going to be talking about the formation, the infancy of Disney TV animation.
Amazing.
It's a really great interview, and it's going to be multiple parts. So I think October next week we're going to kick off Tad Stone's month.
Awesome.
Here at the Skull Rock Podcast. So with that, go out, have a fantastic week. We will talk to you next week right here on the Skull Rock Podcast.